Amazon is just looking unstoppable, but so are all the FANG stocks. They're pretty much holding up and leading the market. But when you're so big and you keep getting bigger and you keep making profits regardless of the CCPV or anything else, then you're gonna get a big target on your back eventually. And I mean, it's already happening. All these FANG boys are getting called into Congress. So the question is whether Bezos and all his FANG friends need to worry about their stock prices getting hit from this. And you'll see there is a major problem developing with these companies. And we're gonna go over it in this video. It's a concept called absentee ownership. And this right here is an article from Matt Stoller at the Big Blog. Really smart guy. But absentee ownership is basically when you're able to do stuff and then when there's consequences, you could just be like, wasn't me. 2000 Shaggy style. And we're going to talk about that. But of course, all this stuff is very hard to time unless you got the right strategy in place, which is why we put together this free training. There's a link to it in this video and down below in the description and comments. And you'll see how we play all these FANG stocks and all the stocks in the NASDAQ too. And when they do get hit, we got the risk control in place to jump out, take our money and run. And that's always the most important part of a strategy. And if you want to learn more about what we're talking about, definitely check out this training. Now, a lot of people don't know what's going on at these companies. So let's start with a little story of what happens at Facebook. And this is just one example of the BS that they all do. So Facebook and Google, they have a huge counterfeit problem. So for example, this one lady, she was on Facebook and there was a sale on her favorite shoe brand, Rothy. That's a rich name, isn't it? And rightfully so, because these shoes are expensive. $125 for flats? I guess the big draw is that they're made out of recyclable, sustainable materials. Like this one, it was made out of a reused cheetah. Killed the cheetah and made the shoe. No, not really, but I never understood leopard print. Like, do you want to look dangerous? Do you want me to think that you might bite me? Actually, you know what? I kind of like that. Rawr. Anyway, as soon as she bought those shoes off that Facebook ad, which she thought was legit, the shoes came and they're like, oh, these are fakes. So of course she wanted a refund, but then to get that refund, they were telling her to ship the product back. But the return address was this. This is not a place us Americans will be able to return to. So the lady called Rothy and was like, hey, what's going on here? And Rothy's like, we're sorry, but we're getting hammered by fraud on Facebook and Instagram, but we can't get either of those companies to stop it. So the only way to stop these things is once they pop up, you report them. So it's like a constant whack-a-mole. And good luck doing that against Chinese counterfeiters. They'll never stop. So Facebook here is letting this happen. And why are they letting it happen? Because they're still making money off of it, right? Those counterfeiters are still paying for ads. And that money goes straight to Facebook. They don't have the right motivation to actually stop it because they're still getting paid. And they're actually protected by this Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. So it protects Facebook from any consequences for the content of ads bought on their platform. They can't be sued for facilitating the fraud and counterfeiting, so they don't have any incentive to do anything about it. So Facebook, Google, all these new ad platforms that have completely taken over, one reason why they're so great is because it's so easy to get started. You just make an account, literally spend $10, and all of a sudden you could show ads to anyone you want. Of course, there are some regulations, like only certain ads get through the system, but at the same time, it's not that strict, especially compared to how TV was, which used to be the main ad platform. To get your ad on TV, the TV network had to interact with the ad agencies, and then you had third parties auditing through tracking companies. So you're not gonna get any straight up fraud like you can get now on Facebook and Google. And it's not just these shoes. Even Costco got hit with fake coupons being passed around on Facebook. Kroger got hit with a fake contest for free groceries. Kickstarter products are taken all the time and used as scams. And the victims of the fraud are either never sent the product or receive a knockoff version. So the problem is what we mentioned in the beginning of this video, absentee ownership. That's how this is all working. So absentee ownership is when the locus of control and the locus of responsibility are different. So Facebook isn't legally responsible for the consequences of what goes up on its network, but it still has control of what goes up on it. See, no responsibility, but they have the control. Meanwhile, a company like Rothy, they have responsibility for its brand, but they have no control over how Facebook sells advertising by counterfeiters. And as I said before, this is the same thing that happens on Google when they run ads. They've earned millions of dollars off ads selling fake healthcare plans or fake customer service from Netflix and fake Microsoft Windows support. And the problem that occurs is that, okay, these platforms, they're allowing counterfeits, right? So in a good capitalistic system, then another company would come up and they'd be like, hey, our platform is much safer. You're not going to get counterfeits. Spend your ad money here, which might have happened with a company like Instagram. But what happened? Facebook bought it up. So Facebook's purchase of Instagram means that a potential competitor to Facebook was taken out of commission. It is possible Instagram might have tried to compete for ad dollars by promising a safer space for advertising, but it never happened. So this whole Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, I'm not really sure if it's good or bad. Should Facebook have full responsibility over every ad, over every person selling something? Maybe, maybe not. But if you have competition in the marketplace, then it will naturally move towards the new company that said, hey, this is a safer space for ads. And then you don't even have to worry about the laws because the natural capitalism will take over. But can't happen when you have these FAANG Goliaths becoming bigger and bigger and they keep acquiring every small company. That's why they're getting called into Congress. So that's the Facebook, Google side of it and just the ad side of it, which also applies to Amazon. Amazon does some stupid stuff with ads. But another similar thing that's more specific to Amazon is how they're manipulating this huge online marketplace now. So as you guys know, there's a lot of different sellers on Amazon. It's not just Amazon giving you products. You could buy straight through manufacturers that put their products on Amazon. But a big thing that's been happening among retailers that use Amazon is that they've been getting screwed. Suddenly they'll see their sales down 40%. And what's the reason? Well, on the Amazon marketplace, the most important thing is the buy box for these producers. And the buy box is this little thing right here, which no one really looks at as a consumer because you're just looking at the price, right? Whatever pops up on Amazon, you say, hey, that's the best price, I'll buy it from there. It's prime shipping. Okay, great. What you don't normally look at is where that product is coming from. And this is a better size picture, but companies compete to be the first recommended company in this buy box. And to do that, you got to have the best price, maybe best shipping, best quality, whatever. But what they saw all of a sudden when their revenue dropped 40% was that like these shoe companies were getting replaced by Zappos. And who owns Zappos? Amazon. It's funny when me and Alex, who's the lead researcher at Macrobs, we used to live in Vegas. One day we were wandering around downtown and we stumbled into this like secret circle with a bodyguard, and it was a bunch of those metallic RVs or whatever, all put around in a big circle. And we go in, and this is like in some back alleyway, and there's all these people just hanging out. There's a guy playing guitar. There's one guy with a keg who's like trying to roll it across the lawn, and he looks up and he's like, who are you guys? And we're like, I don't know. And we just went and sat down. Next day I read an article in the paper that the Zappos CEO, the billionaire guy who sold to Amazon, he has a secret little circle, and he was actually the guy rolling the keg across the lawn. And it was funny because right outside that circle, if you cross the street, that's where you'd see all the cop cars and the lights, because downtown Vegas is not the nicest place until Zappos moved in and tried to make it a little better. But anyway, back to this article. You can see how there's a conflict of interest when all of a sudden the algorithm is giving preferential treatment to Zappos, the Amazon-owned company. So Amazon once again gets paid off of everything. Even if they recommend the non-Zappos company, they're still getting paid off those transactions. So it again becomes kind of the absentee ownership thing, because Amazon has control of the marketplace structure, how consumers buy, and even the inventory of third parties, but it doesn't have responsibility for any of it. Amazon gets paid whether it makes Zappos a dominant seller or whether it extracts fees from merchants for its warehousing or marketplace services, or whether it's an algorithm has glitches or not, which is what people thought. It was an algorithm glitch. Maybe, maybe not, no one will know. But Amazon can't be sued because all merchants have to sign arbitration clauses in their contracts that prohibit lawsuits. So once again, Amazon has that complete control and they could stifle competition. Now, when I read those examples, it seems pretty obvious that these guys are out of line, all these FAANG stocks. But it gets a little complicated because what you got to look at is the consumer benefit versus the producer benefit. So in these situations, it's mainly producers getting screwed, all the retailers. And this happens all the time, especially if you're selling on Amazon. And I've told you guys these stories before. I got a few friends with those Amazon storefronts. And if you're producing a product that's doing really well, Amazon will send a guy over and say, hey, let's see how we can work together. Let's go over your operations and, fix it up. And before you know it, there's an Amazon Basics product that's the same exact thing as your product, but it has prime shipping and it's much cheaper. And all of a sudden, you're out of business because they literally came and stole that thing. But on the consumer end, what happens for you and me? All of a sudden, we got just as good of a product and it's cheaper. So if the lawmakers are to look at that and they see consumer benefit going up, then it's going to be hard to say, hey, Amazon, you can't do that, because it might actually be better for the consumer. And when you think about it, all these companies are private companies, right? They're not government companies. They just happen to become big enough that they basically make up the internet. If you're selling physical goods, you're definitely doing it on Amazon, definitely using ads off of Facebook and Google. So yeah, selling a product have to be on Amazon. And if you're using ads, you have to be on Facebook or Google. So they do own the marketplace. So really the only thing you can get them on, what you need to focus on, is whether they're killing other competition. And if they keep buying up these companies, then maybe they are. But I think for something to actually happen, it needs to be a big effect on consumers, because no one cares about producers. The longer I'm in business for myself, the more I just keep seeing how hard it is for business owners. Around every corner is a headache, and you wonder, why is it done like this? Why do I have to do this? It's like running through sludge to try and provide any value for any marketplace. And you wonder, how do companies even start like this? But nobody really cares about the business owner, right? It's like, oh, you're complaining about your money? Stop whining. And I get it. I mean, even when I look at myself, I'm like, shut up, AK. What are you complaining about? So only when the consumer is actually getting hurt will those things change, in my opinion, which might be happening. I'm building out a new office studio right now, and I've had to purchase a bunch of products on Amazon, and it's been so difficult. A few years ago, if I typed in a product on Amazon, the first result I knew was going to be the best, with the best reviews and everything. Now, when you type something into Amazon, Amazon, there's all these sponsored posts, and the Amazon's choice, it's not always the best price, and very often it's a bad product. So when Amazon came about and everyone started using it, I was really happy because I'm like, oh, finally, I don't have to do research anymore. Whatever pops up first is probably the best. But now it's gone away from that again, and I'm back to doing research. And it's taken so long for every little thing. And you do gotta worry about counterfeits because you don't know where these sellers came from. I don't remember that being a problem before. So it is a worse experience on Amazon, and it's really tough for another marketplace to get started right now. The advantages are way too big in Amazon's favor, and they can always just buy up whatever startup happens. And then it's back to the same thing, doing whatever Amazon wants. Same thing has happened to me on Facebook and Google personally as well. When we first started getting targeted ads, it was actually kind of cool because I did find some stuff that I like that I wouldn't have found otherwise. But now it's just a mess. But there's no alternative. So this may just be the start, these congressional hearings, and FANG may fall. But again, like I said before, it's very difficult to actually time these fundamental events. Okay, we had this congressional hearing. Is that going to affect the stock price? Doesn't look like it did. But is this the start of something that is going to cause a collapse sometime in the future? That's why even though I think it's interesting to track these fundamental factors, still the most important thing you can do is follow price, because the market is going to know before you do. And the market is right even when it's wrong, even when it doesn't make sense. Whatever the price is what the price is. And that's kind of the ideology that we follow in this strategy that I was talking about. So in this free training, and there's a link in this video and down below in the description and comments, you'll see how we use that methodology. Same strategy that I use and all of our Fallible members use as well. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe, because this is a topic I'm going to continue to track. It's really interesting to see what's going to happen to these FANG stocks. And it really does affect all of us, because these are all products that we use every day. Amazon has definitely made my life better, but things might be changing and we may need some new competition. So anyway, subscribe and we'll keep talking about it. Stay fallible out there. Bye.